Oh my goodness, y'all, we're going to make this happen. This is Mandy with a Purposeful Woman podcast. And again, we are trying this for the third time. Karis and I are trying a new way of doing this. So this is kind of new to all of us. So just bear with us. We are so sorry. We're also doing it for the first time on Monday night at 7 o'clock. Hopefully this is a little bit better for all of you and see us, and so she can talk to us. Yay!
Hey.
Okay, we finally made it. It takes a team effort. And us too in the background. So,
and Brandon, come on, say hello to all the women.
Hey. Seriously, it takes a team effort with us out at times. So
yes.
But yeah, like I said, we're doing this at a different time, and we're going to be talking about emotions. Because we have all been through some major emotions. I know I've been through some major emotions the last 3 weeks because I've had major things going on with my health and all that kind of stuff. So we really felt like that this was a great time to talk about this. So I know my life feels like the movie Inside Out sometimes. There are so many emotions going on at so many different occasions and so many different times. So this is a great time to talk about it. And please share this with your friends if you will, or if you can, a little bit about this, because we are going to be diving into we're going to keep it real for y'all, as we always do. So with that being said, let's get started.
All right. Yeah, I'm getting it. So I've got it on our group for everybody who is in our Purposeful Woman group. So you guys can check us there. We're on mine or Mandy's profile page also. So we've got that. And if you haven't heard our exciting news before we get started here, we're on iTunes. You can download it, and you can add it to our Purposeful Woman podcast. And a friend also told me that she has an app that helps her. She doesn't have an iPhone. If you get on, you can remind me what that is. But subscribe to that podcast on the iTunes, and automatically upload for you, so you don't do your hobbies or activities, or while you're taking care of the kiddos. So we're excited about that. But while we were talking about this, she said it reminded her, of the movie Inside Out. If y'all know, Mandy and I love a little bit, like, thought of. Also,
bring that one up.
If you don't know it, you can go and find it on Google it, Spotify, whatever. It's a fun little emotions. They're all a part of who we created us, and when he created us with emotions, he created emotions of happiness. There's some, we have anger. These are all part of our makeup, our body that God gave us, and he gave us all these emotions for a reason. And emotion means that you are a human being. It means that you are not a robot, that you are alive and you are well, and these emotions are a part of you. They're a part of your body and a part of what God. You also relate to go through hard times, or supportive of people when they need that, or emotions can help protect you in dangerous. they're all important. And some of the things we're going to talk about is how they affect us. Are they bad? How do things that we wanted to talk about with you, and that your emotions are not a bad thing. We're going to talk about how to respond to those and what God says, but they're all a part. And one thing that we wanted to kind of other people. It's very easy for to affect us, especially if the other people are little people, right? And they live in your household. They can affect you, or that other person could be your spouse or your friend. So, so Mandy, kind of on that subject, kind of how can that affect us in a good or a bad way, other people's emotions?
Well, before we started doing this, I told Karis, I was like, I really don't know what to say about this part, because I homeschool my kids and they're with me all day, every day. They are a lot of the senses of they're very strong-willed, which one day will come into handy, but right now it's really kind of it drives you crazy. But yet they all have different little personalities, and their personalities, you know, are absolutely amazing. And I love every single one of them, but sometimes it's really hard to keep up with all the emotions and then not allowing those emotions to affect you. And as I say this, my husband's on here too, and he can he'll be like, liar, if you're lying, you're like, no, but I struggle with this. I really do struggle with this, because if my daughter's upset about this, or if my son's upset about that, or even if my husband's upset with something, it kind of, you know, it does affect you. But I think what's helped me is to realize that it's okay if it affects you. It's okay if those emotions come out. It's just the way that we react to things. I mean, my gosh, Jesus was human. He had emotions. He had strong emotions about a lot of things, but it was his reaction that is a lot different to ours. You know, David in the Bible had all kinds of emotions. He reacted to them in some bad ways, but some good ways too.
Yeah.
But he was a man after God's own heart, and God knew it. And he went back and repented and said, hey, I reacted the wrong way.
Right.
I do have to admit, you know, being home with my kids all day, every day, I do react in not so great ways, because it gets the best of you some days. Emotions do. But so no, I mean, if you're struggling with something and they talk about it to you, or even if they don't talk about it to you, sometimes you just know. You know, you just know that something's going on. And if you're a very sensitive person, highly sensitive person, which, you know, Karis and I both are, we, you know, can be affected by those emotions. And, you know, they're not bad. I think we've all been told, or not really told, but we feel like they're bad, but they're really not bad to them, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. So I know I used to feel like I always had to be happy. I always had to be joyful. I could never be mad. I could never get angry. I could never be afraid. Like I felt like I always had to just have a smile on my face, you know, and always look like I had it together, because I thought negative emotions were wrong. I thought they were wrong. I thought they were bad. And so maybe while you're watching us tonight, maybe you're struggling with that. Maybe you're wondering why you have some of the emotions that you have, and it's not that they're bad. Like Mandy said, it's the situations that may cause them, or maybe what we do after that emotion, that can be our choice of how we handle it, is what can affect us. I think about today. I mean, even if you're living under a rock, you know what happened in Las Vegas. Horrible happened to all of those people. And I'm just going to tell you right now, the emotion that I first felt was anger. I'm angry that evil is alive and well and is hurting innocent people and innocent life. I am angry about that. And you know what? Jesus got angry too. So I know I'm not wrong in having that emotion. And then I'm not just angry, I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken for the moms that were lost, for the dads that were lost. I'm heartbroken for the ones who were just there to have fun, who were there maybe celebrating something. And I'm heartbroken for the ones who were there to save somebody else's life. They willingly gave up their life. And so I'm filled with all of these emotions. And we have other emotions. I mean, our country, look at all the things that we have been dealing with, the natural disasters, the hurricanes, all these things going on. I mean, all of these situations, all these circumstances can bring up emotions that some people view as negative, but they're not negative. They're, the way that we respond with them, that can be negative. So having those emotions, maybe even you're going through a divorce right now, or you're going through something really painful with your kids, or, you know, moms, we just beat ourselves up all the time when our kids won't listen, or things don't go the way that we think, or we don't have control, we think, of a situation, and we just beat ourselves up. But these are all emotions that you're allowed to have. You can't let that emotion stop you from staying in motion. You know what I mean? Like, you can't let that emotion stop you from living. You can't let it stop you from, you know, growing into all that God has created you to do. You've just got to learn how to deal with them, because if we don't deal with them, what happens is we push them down. And we push them down. And so, Mandy, happens when I push emotions down. And if Brandon is, he will probably tell you what happens when I push emotions down. But I know for me, when I push them down, I either explode, I go into fear, and freeze up, or I just clam up and so those are my two responses. I shut down or I explode. I mean, what about you? You push your emotions down.
Yeah, it's going to be an explosion at some point in time. My husband, for a very, it does, it's, you better just walk away and leave the room. Then you live in guilt at times, because those emotions bring up, you know, they make you react in a way that you don't want to react. Or even whenever, you know, having my kids with me all day for homeschooling, you know, I mean, I react in really bad ways sometimes, but I have to go and I have to say, I'm sorry, Mom had a bad day. Mom's having a bad moment. Actually, not a bad day. It's just a bad moment, but we've got this. We can do this. But whenever you push them down, that's whenever it becomes pretty dangerous, just because we've dealt with it. You know, we've talked about this on the podcast. We talked about anxiety. We're going to talk about depression even more. You know, we talked about those things that can just get the best of you. And that's what happens whenever you push those emotions down. Yeah. And I see Chris's picture right here. I know that he's on here, and he's probably sitting there going like this the whole time, because I have pushed emotions down from even as far as like childhood, you know, and it does nothing but rob your joy. It steals your joy, and it consumes you, you know, to a point that you just cannot. It's hard. It's debilitating. Right. If you've never been through that, you know, that is the only way to really explain it. It's very debilitating, and it can turn into anxiety. It can turn into depression or whatever. But, you know, those of you who have been following us, like 3 weeks ago, I found out that I have a heart issue. And at 38 years old, I never once in my life thought that that would ever be an issue. Right. But it is now. So there were so many emotions going on that first week. I mean, from Chris and I to the kids, because the kids, you know, Chris was holding down the fort, and the kids were at home and ready for Mom to come home. And there were emotions on my part, emotions on Chris's part, and on the kids, and of course the rest of my family and friends. I mean, Kara's had her emotions about it. We all did. And so, but at the end of everything was said and done, or after I left the hospital and I was actually thinking a little bit straighter, I could sit there and I could deal with my emotions. And whenever I finally dealt with them, I'm still dealing with them about it. I'm still angry some days. I'm still not happy with it some days, but I keep saying, God, turn that anger around and help me to use this story as a testimony.
Right.
Or help me to, I don't even need to understand it. I would like to understand it. I don't, but I may never understand it, but at least help me to use this to move forward so we can deal with this emotion. And I have to say there's still some days. I mean, and not even just that situation, but other situations. There's situations where I'm angry at some point, but what happens is that anger over that one thing turns into this whole day of anger, at times. And I caught myself earlier saying it to you too, Karis, and just a second ago, I have to go to my kids and say, mommy had a bad moment. Just because you have a bad moment doesn't mean that it's a bad day. Just because you're angry for one moment doesn't mean that you're going to be angry all day. But I find myself there sometimes, human. It's hard to look past that.
Yeah, I mean, we all struggle. I mean, like you're saying, we're all human, and we're gonna mess up, and we're gonna make mistakes. But recognizing that and acknowledging, that it happened, or acknowledging that emotion or that feeling is there, allows you to not live in it. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing that I think, like you're talking about, is dealing with emotions, is acknowledging that they're there, acknowledging if you're angry about something, acknowledging if you are fearful about something, acknowledging if you are joyful about something, allowing, making yourself say those things. And even, I know for myself, I've had to even say to God, okay, God, I know I can feel the fear trying to come up in me, or I can sense this anger coming up. And so I have to acknowledge it, because if I don't acknowledge it, like you were saying, I'm going to stay in it, because I'm going to push it down. And then I don't allow God to help me deal with it, because y'all, I'm going to let you know a little secret. God already knows if you're mad. He already knows if you're sad. He knows if you're got that fear, fear inside of you. He knows if you're angry at him. I mean, he knows these things. And so acknowledging the emotions allows us to have those conversations and those prayer times with him, to grow in him, to let him, chip at all the things that need to come away and come off of us, and make us lean in on him. And I was telling Mandy in my quiet time this morning, I was reading in Ephesians chapter 4, not even thinking about the podcast at that time, but just kind of really reading it. It just stuck out to me as I was praying over our podcast. But Ephesians 4, starting in verse 21, or verse 22, it says that the truth is in Jesus, to put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires. Be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on the new self, created after the likeness of God. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your anger, and give no opportunity to the devil. Let no corrupt talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up as fits the occasion. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit by God, by whom you are sealed for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and slander be put away from you, along with malice. And be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. That is so full of how to deal with emotions. So we're told right here to speak the truth to our neighbors. We as believers, we have got to speak the truth. Speak it in love, but we have to stand and we have to speak the truth. And it tells us to be angry and don't sin. So that tells me there's going to be a time where my anger is going to be okay. You know, it's going to be the right thing, but I don't need to sin in that anger. I don't need to, like, you know, yell ugly things at people, you know, and that goes on down in the verse about not letting corrupt talk come out of our mouth. So to me, complaining about a situation or gossiping about someone, if they've hurt you, that's not the right way to deal with that emotion.
Right.
Again, we should go to them. We should talk to them. We should deal with it. And at the end of it, you know, be kind to one another. Forgive each other. And I know as I sit here, I feel like I'm talking to myself, because when somebody hurts you, it hurts you and it cuts you to the core. And you think to yourself, how can I deal with that emotion of hurt or unforgiveness or anger? And it tells us right here to forgive.
Right.
We have to forgive. We have to love. I mean, you know, Jesus hanging up on the cross, and he's right there by the thief, and the thief, you know, asked him to remember him, and Jesus forgave him right there, and said, you'll be with me in paradise. And even hanging up on the cross, he says to his Father, forgive them, because they don't know what they're doing. And he is the perfect example for us in dealing with our emotions. Are we going to always get it right? No. But that's where, like you were saying, we go back and we say, hey, I messed up. Because we don't want to stay in that emotion. We don't want a bad moment to turn into a bad day. Right? So, you know, your feelings are going to lie to you sometimes too. And so if you're constantly listening to your feelings and moving in your feelings and not moving in your faith and moving in God and in what God says, they're going to control you, and it's going to rob you of your joy, like you were talking about. So we've got to shift from what do my feelings tell me to what does my faith say.
Right.
I feel like that, but this is what my faith says. So this is how I'm going to walk out this moment.
That's what Chris tells me all the time, is go by what you know, go by the facts, go by that book, that big book that you got. Don't go on your feelings, because your feelings are going to mislead you.
Absolutely.
Your feelings are going to lie to you, you know, a lot of times. And know, as Karis was saying all that and reading that scripture, know that we're all going to get it wrong at some time. And we've all gotten it wrong. I mean, every day, I know I say this in every single podcast, but we're living, you know, each day to be better than what we were yesterday.
Yeah.
And so we're always growing. We're never going to be complete. We're never going to be completely, it's like that onion that I talked about before. You know, you keep peeling layers and layers and layers off. I don't know if you've ever seen an onion. It stinks for one thing, but it's got so many layers. It just keeps going and going. And that's what I think about, you know, whenever I think about us as humans. We're always growing. We're always having a layer pulled off. And once you pull off a layer, usually there's another layer behind it that you never knew that was even there. And God's bringing it to the surface for a reason. And I can remember even saying I say this to Chris a lot, you know, oh my gosh, why is this being brought up right now? Why is this emotion coming to the surface? But it's usually because you're supposed to use it for the better good. And just like with me and Karis doing this, I'm not saying that you have to go get a podcast or go on live video, or you have to do anything like that, but start little. And I was actually telling a group of ladies last Wednesday, you know, start small.
Yeah.
Start just telling people about your story. You know, you don't have to tell the whole story if you don't want to. Whenever the time's right, the time's right. But start just telling your story. And 9 times out of 10, there's going to be somebody in that group that goes, oh my gosh, I've had that emotion. Or, oh my gosh, I've gone through the same thing, or how did you make it through? And that's what we're there for, is to help each other through this life. And, you know, and there's going to be emotions. You're going to be upset one minute and you're going to be angry the next minute. I can remember, you know, whenever, somebody told me, I don't know who it was now, but turn your anger into righteous anger, because that's Jesus had, was righteous anger, you know, and that's what he used it for the greater good.
Yes.
You know, and
Yeah.
so emotions are not a bad thing, but just to recap, just sitting in them is not always good, especially the ones that are angry and bring negativity. I can't get it out. Bring a little bit of negativity too. You can't sit in it. You're not,
No.
and you're just like Kara said before, you're not always going to be joyful, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I try to be the same every time somebody sees me. We don't put on a lot of mask, you know, whenever you see us, but there are going to be some times where I'm smiling really big, and there are going to be times that I'm not smiling as big, and that's
Right.
okay. It's just life, and life throws you curveballs.
It does.
Fortunately.
Let's take example for tonight.
Yeah.
Technology was not our friend. And
We
I was
tried
just
3 times.
yes, my feelings said, forget it, don't do it. I was getting stressed out, and my feelings were telling me you're not meant to do this tonight. So your feelings are part of your flesh.
And
Your
it was
flesh is weak,
right.
right? Your flesh is weak. It wants to quit. But we knew in our spirit that God needed this for somebody tonight. If just one person, if it helps one person shift from listening to their feelings to shift to listening to their faith and in what God's word says, then all of the behind the scenes that we'll laugh about maybe tomorrow was worth it. I mean, it was totally worth it.
And honestly, guys, last week, I don't know if you saw the podcast last week, I was laid up in a hospital bed. I didn't want to do it. You know, tonight, I really didn't want to do it either. I'm still not feeling myself. I'm still not feeling good. But I know that I know that I know that this is what, you know, God called us to get on here and do this. And like Kara said, my emotions said, oh my gosh, I just forget it.
Yeah.
But, you know, if we would have gone on that emotion, we wouldn't have you here with us. So, you know, I mean, and just like last week when we talked about divorce, I cannot tell you how many women reached out to Karis and I and said, oh my gosh, that touched our heart. And honestly, we could have said, Mandy's laying up in a hospital bed. Let's just go eat. Let's just not do it. But we knew that, you know, we had to push through those emotions. And sometimes that's what you have to do. You've got to push through. Don't push them down, but push through. I like what you said about, what did you say about emotion and staying in emotion?
About not staying in your emotions, but staying in motion.
In motion.
Yeah, staying in motion. Yeah.
I like that. Instead of emotion, it's in motion. So that, I think that's a good place to leave off on.
Yeah.
Stay in motion, not in the emotion.
Right.
No. But thank y'all so much for being here. We really do appreciate every single time that y'all tune in. And we hope that you will be a part of our Purposeful Woman podcast or Purposeful Woman group. We will put the link at the bottom here and in the comments, so you can get the link and you can go over there for more fun stuff. And also, we wanted to announce that we may be coming close to you. We are taking the Purposeful Woman on the road, and we are hoping to come to a city near you. So if you know anywhere that is looking for 2 awesome ladies to come and talk about being a purposeful woman, please let us know, because we feel that this is the next step for the purposeful woman. And if you could be praying for us about it too, because we're very, very, very excited. So join us in all of that. Join the group. Also, you know, let us know if there is anywhere that you know of that we can go and speak to live near you. We've actually started a group already in Alabama, and we hope to expand it from there. So we will see y'all the next time that we do this. And if you didn't get to catch it live, that's okay. Still leave some comments. That we will leave the replay up. And of course, you can go to iTunes and get the podcast there so you can listen while you're on the treadmill or your phone closed or whatever the case may be. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.